Hello and welcome to today's video on Act 3, Scene 5 of Macbeth. This is a scene that's not often taught in a lot of detail in school for GCSE level, but we're going to have a quick look at it because it does give us some information about the witches and the supernatural in the play. Before we get into it, I want you to stop the video, write down everything you know about the witches, and then start the video again when you're ready. Okay, you're probably going to have lots of things written down that I might not touch on in this little summary. That is absolutely fine, but these are the ideas that I came up with. So we start with Act 1, Scene 1, which is the start of the play and where we first meet the witches. They appear on a heath. Sometimes in the stage directions it's called an open place. Whatever it is, it's a place that's outside of human civilization. So already Shakespeare is signalling to us that these three weird sisters are supernatural and that they're ostracized, they're separate from society. They seem to have some knowledge of the future, and they're planning to use this to manipulate Macbeth. Shakespeare also presents the witches as being unnatural in this scene, and one of the ways he does it in lots of ways, but one of the ways he does this is through the use of a rhythm called trochaic tetrameter. I'm not going to get into the details of it here, but essentially this is a rhythm that sounds unnatural. It sounds different to the way that the other characters speak. If I just give you one line, you'll be able to hear the sense of it. Fair is foul and foul is fair. That sounds really different from the lines that the other characters say. You know, for example, Lady Macbeth says, "Unsex me here, fill me from the crown to the toe top full of direst cruelty." Whereas if you say fair is foul and foul is fair, you can hear the chant in that, and that's that trochaic tetrameter rhythm. They're associated with magic, so we have the chanting, the lines often rhyme, often sounds like an incantation. And the key quotation from this opening scene is fair is foul and foul is fair. So fair meaning good, foul meaning corrupt or evil. The witches are saying that things that appear to be good are actually going to be corrupt underneath. And that kind of sets the tone for the whole play because that idea of facades ripples all the way through the other characters' behaviour. Then we see the witches again in Act 1, Scene 3. And at the start of that scene, we learn about how they meddle in the lives of humans, and they often do that to seek vengeance. So one of the witches tells a story at the start of that scene where she's really annoyed because a lady wouldn't give her some chestnuts when she wanted them. And so she's going to take revenge on that lady by attacking her husband and so on. So the witches are quite used to meddling in the lives of humans, and they're quite confident in that. So then, in this scene, they start to meddle in the lives of Macbeth and Banquo. And when the witches appear to Macbeth and Banquo, we're instantly told that they are unnatural, they are different, there's something strange and unhuman about them. And one of the ways in which this is signalled is through Banquo's comment that they seem to be women, but they have beards. And he also says that they're wild and withered in their attire. Then the witches give the prophecies to Macbeth and Banquo, and they vanish like bubbles. So again, this is emphasising their supernatural traits. And Banquo reflects on how to win us to our harm the instruments of darkness tell us truths. So right from the outset of the play, we have this connection made between the witches and the powers of evil. We might imagine the devil, for example. Except in today's scene, we find that maybe darkness is actually not a Christian idea of the devil, but is the Greek mythological idea of Hecate. Now, Hecate was the Greek goddess of witchcraft and magic and that kind of thing. And she arrives on the stage in Act 3, Scene 5 to give the witches a real telling off. She's really angry that they've been meddling in Macbeth's life. Not for the reason that you might be assuming. They're angry because she's angry because she's annoyed that she wasn't involved. They didn't keep her in the loop. They didn't tell her what they were doing. So Hecate is kind of giving them a bit of a telling off, and saying, why didn't you involve me in your plans? Now, with this particular scene, it's quite a short scene, as you can see on the screen. And some people have suggested that this scene wasn't written by Shakespeare, that it was actually written by another playwright called Thomas Middleton. I'm going to treat it in this video as if it was written by Shakespeare, because it just overlaps so well with all of the different themes in the language of the play. Anyway, so Hecate appears in front of the witches, and the first witch realizes that something is up, and she says, "Why, how now, Hecate? You look angrily, as in you look really angry with us." And then you can see that Hecate absolutely takes control of the scene, and the other witches don't really have much to say back to her. And it's kind of as if they are subservient, they are submissive to her because Hecate is in control of them. So Hecate says, "Have I not reason, beldams as you are, saucy and overbold? Why did you dare to trade and traffic with Macbeth in riddles and affairs of death?" As she's saying, how did you dare to manipulate Macbeth, to get involved with him without telling me? She continues, "And I, the mistress of your charms, the close contriver of all harms, was never called to bear my part, or show the glory of our art. And, which is worse, all you have done hath been but for a wayward son, spiteful and wrathful, who, as others do, loves for his own ends, not for you." So this is the telling off, and then she says, "But." So we get a real shift in the speech here. And Hecate realizes, right, now that you've started on this path, you've started manipulating Macbeth, we're going to continue, but we're going to do this job really well. She says, "Make amends now, so you're going to fix this. Get you gone, and at the pit of Acheron meet me in the morning." So they're going to meet the next day. Thither he, this is Macbeth, thither he will come to know his destiny. So the witch, or Hecate, sorry, already knows that Macbeth is going to come back to see the witches, that he's going to come back to ask for some more prophecies. And Hecate says, "Your vessels and your spells provide, your charms and everything beside." So she says, "Be ready for that. He's coming back to talk to you. Get all your spells, get all your potions, get everything ready so that we can trick him a little bit more." And Hecate continues, "I am for the air. This night I'll spend unto a dismal and fatal end. Great business must be wrought ere noon. Upon the corner of the moon there hangs a vaporous drop profound. I'll catch it ere it come to grind. And that, distilled by magic sleight, shall raise such artificial sprites, as, by the strength of their illusion, shall draw him on to his confusion. He shall spurn fate, scorn death, and bear his hopes above wisdom, grace, and fear. And you all know security is mortal's chiefest enemy." Okay, we're going to look at that final yellow quotation in a second. But I suppose you might be thinking, why is Shakespeare introducing such a powerful character towards the end of Act 3? We're over halfway through the play. Like, surely Shakespeare should have introduced all the characters by now. What's he doing bringing this other one in? Well, as we get towards the end of the play, Shakespeare's really ramping up the tension. And now he doesn't just have the three witches, who are clearly powerful and supernatural and able to manipulate and control Macbeth. He's bringing in an even stronger force of darkness and evil to show how vulnerable Macbeth is now that he's been caught in this web of evil and dark magic. Then, towards the end of this scene, there's music, there's another song, and Hecate says, "Hark, I am called, my little spirit see, sits in a foggy cloud and stays for me." So a nice nod there to the fog that we had in Act 1, Scene 1, and we know that fog can symbolise blindness to the truth, it can symbolise the spreading of evil as well. Hecate exits, and then the first witch is able to get a word in edgewise again and says, "Come, let's make haste. She'll soon be back again." So she's saying, right, let's follow her instructions. Let's get ourselves sorted because she's going to come back and we don't want another telling off. Right, let's look at this key quotation then. So at the end of her speech, Hecate says, "Security is mortal's chiefest enemy." Now, this relates to the prophecies that the witches are going to give Macbeth in Act 4, Scene 1. In that scene, which we'll look at in a couple of videos' time, the witches are going to tell Macbeth that he is pretty much invincible. He can't be killed until Birnam Wood walks. He can't be killed by anyone who's not born of woman. And at that point, Macbeth thinks, well, nobody can kill me, woods don't walk, and there's nobody who's not born of woman. So they give him this sense of security. But it's a false sense of security because the witches are tricking him. The wood will walk later on, and we'll see that when we look at Act 5. And Macduff wasn't born of woman. So this is a false security. And when Hecate says this line, she's saying that false sense of security is really the biggest problem that people face. Humans get overconfident, they get hubristic, they get above their station, and then when they act that way, they often meet their downfall. Okay, so I want you to summarise what we've talked about in today's video. You might want to go back and re-watch sections of it if that's helpful. There's 3 things you learn about Hecate, 2 things you learn about the plans for Macbeth, and 1 thing you learn about the witch's response to Hecate. And in the next video, we will look at Act 3, Scene 6.